presentation just to kind of explain to you what the problem that magic indexing solves and how we do it, how it's different from everyone else. And then I'm going to actually go into the application and show you how it works. So give me one moment, and I'm going to share out my screen. Okay, so my screen should be shared out. Let's see. Let's go ahead and go ahead and do this. All right. All right. So everyone should be able to see my screen right now. And let's go ahead and let me make sure that everything is okay. Looks like we're good to go. All right, everyone. So again, thanks for joining this afternoon. I also have a couple of colleagues on the line with me as well. Scott, Derek, Doug, and everyone is on mute right now. So if you have any questions, please, just type in the chat, and they'll be able to answer them as we go along. Also, you can, always just, give us a call here, and we'll be happy to talk with you after the presentation. So I wanted to give everyone just a chance, a couple more minutes to see, people that were maybe running a little bit late. So we're going to start it at 1:05. I think this is about 2 more minutes. Let's see. All right. All right. Let me make sure everything is set up here on my end, and we will get started. All right, well, let's get started. Okay, so magic indexing, let's talk about it. First, what I want to do is talk about the problem. What problem did we see? And talking with our customers, here's what we heard. Right now, there is no way to accurately index unstructured data. And throughout this presentation, I'm going to be using the example of an invoice. I believe it's something that everyone is comfortable with and understands. So if you take an invoice and we want to pull certain information off of that invoice, let's say we want to pull the vendor name, the amount, the invoice date, the invoice number. These are all common things that will be present on every invoice. And right now, as it stands, there's no way to get that information off if the data is unstructured. What I mean by that is, okay, we can use with Capture, there are different tools that we can utilize, like zone recognition, where we can set up a zone and say, okay, look here and look for these markers and then give me this information. And we can usually be very, very accurate pulling the data back that way. However, the data has to be structured. And what I mean is that all the invoices have to look the same. And I'll show you an example of that. But what happens when we're talking about unstructured data? What if we have, 50 invoices, some are 1 page long, some are, 10 pages long. They all look different. They all have essentially that information on them, but how do we get it off? How do we accurately get it off? And until now, there was really no way to do that. There are some solutions out there that are available that can essentially be trained to pull the data off. And what I mean by trained is we send hundreds of examples through, and over time, the software theoretically learns where this data is and can pick it up. The issue that we've heard from customers is that, number one, we have to train this, so we have to send literally hundreds of invoices, for example, through. Then we're having to train our people to use the software. And then ultimately, even after we've gone through that whole process, it's coming back and it's still not accurate. So we're still having to manually key this data in, still having to manually, put a pair of eyes on every one of these invoices to make sure that they're accurate. And so, here we heard our customer's problem, and we've come up with a way to solve it. And this is completely unique to anything that is available in the market, on the market right now. And we call it magic indexing. So what is magic indexing? Well, what it is, it's a new module that is inside of Doc.me Capture. And Doc.me Capture is Office Gemini's capture solution or capture software. It does, it's used to process large volumes of documents. It does, the things that any capture software is going to do. We can do, zone recognition. We can read barcodes. We can, do those types of things. But when it came to capturing the unstructured data off of a document, when the data is coming in and it's not similar, even Doc.me Capture, it was a challenge to do that. So magic indexing solves that. What it does, it automatically indexes unstructured data, handwriting, and logos. That's what we do now. I'm going to show you how that works. Right now, it works in English, Spanish, and French. We'll have other languages coming out soon. So how do we do that? Well, the way we do it is we really have come up with a way to make this available to anyone who wants to do it, meaning the price point is low, so anyone can use it, and there's no software to really learn. Once it's set up, our customer, all they need to know how to do is they need to know how to work the hardware that they're using, whether it be an MFP or a scanner. They need to know how to scan those documents to a folder. So in the invoice example, picture having 50 invoices from all different vendors. We put them on our MFP and we push the red button, scan them to a folder, and Doc.me Capture is watching that folder. So those invoices are scanned into the folder, and we have something that's called active import. And what it does is it's just going to automatically process them using active import. We're going to import them into Doc.me Capture. From there, what we do different is once it's set up, those invoices are actually going to be sent to our processing server first. And on our end, we're actually going to do the extraction of that data. So for an invoice, for example, we'll be looking for different markers and pulling the data off depending on what we're looking for, vendor name, amount, date, and we extract all of the data. But the big thing that we do that sets us aside from everybody else out there is we actually do the QC for the customer. We're doing the quality control. We have a pair of eyes on every single one of those index fields, making sure that they're correct. So if you take, for instance, a vendor name, I know the vendor name on an invoice is going to be at the top third of that page somewhere. It may be on the left. It may be on the right, maybe the middle. It could be a logo. It doesn't matter. We're going to pull that data off, and then we're going to have someone that's verifying it. So in the event that that vendor name is a logo, for instance, we will catch that and correct it. In the event that maybe an invoice is handwritten or something like that, we're going to be able to catch that and correct it and make sure that everything is correct. Then we send that index data back to the customer, and it's exported to wherever the customer stores their data, whether it be Doc.me DMS, whether it be a Windows file system, whether it be SharePoint, another ECM system. We integrate with with anything out there, but the big thing is the customer puts the invoices on, they push scan, and they walk away. And the next time they see these documents, they have been scanned in and they have been indexed, and they're sitting where the customer needs them to be. They don't need to learn any. They don't need to learn any software. They don't need to. Don't need to interact with the application in any way after it's set up. So how do we do this, and how do we make it available to our customers? Well, there are solutions today that, as I mentioned earlier, where we train them to process invoices, for example. The challenge that our customers faced is, number one, that they don't work very well. That's a big piece of it. The other piece is just the cost involved with implementing something like that. So if I have a piece of software that is going to require me to send 500 invoices through so that it can learn how to correctly identify certain fields that I want, I'm going to need a customer I'm going to need to have an employee trained on how to use it. I'm going to have to dedicate the time to actually training the software. And then there's always a big upfront cost. It's just very cost prohibitive for a lot of companies to use. And they're having to come up with a big initial investment to use something that they don't even know if it's going to work. So I want to process invoices. I may be asked, well, how many do you process in a year? And let's say, I'm just going to throw a number out there. It's 10,000. Okay, well, we're going to charge you X dollars per page for those 10,000 invoices, and you need to pay it all up front. We do not do it that way. So we make this is actually something that from a small business all the way up to a large business can use. And the way we do it is we do not charge by page. So you can have a 20-page invoice, and it's going to cost just as much as it would cost for a one-page invoice, because we're not charging by the page, we're charging by the character. And like I mentioned earlier, Magic Indexing, it's a module inside of Document Capture. A company does not have to use it. If they elect to use it, this is how they do it. You would go in, you would create a Magic Indexing account, and you buy a block of characters. We actually have it set up. So the plans, the slide that I'm showing now, it's showing the different plans, and that the number of characters is determined by the size of the plan. So the cost per character is determined by the size of the plan. The bigger the plan, the smaller the cost per character. It can be used for as little as $99. In addition to that, we offer a free trial. A customer who downloads Document Capture will have the option of creating a Magic Indexing account, and they'll be given 4,000 characters to try to see if it works for them before they have to make any type of investment in it. And then once that's decided, anywhere from a small business to a large business, there's a plan that's going to coincide with a price point for any customer. Now, the way it works is as invoices are processed, the character counts. When we talk about a character, we're talking about not a character on each invoice. We're talking about a character in the index field. So let's say I have 5 index fields, and I process a batch of invoices. For every character or keystroke inside of those index fields, my account is going to be debited that number of characters. And when it reaches 0, I can go back in and buy another plan, or I can actually have it set up here to just automatically recharge. So the value to our customers is this. It's very, very easy to set up this way. We come in, and for invoices, we'll set up a Magic Indexing template, set up a folder to scan to, and that's it. The customer does not need to train employees or know how to use the software, really. Once it's set up, all they need to know how to do is use the hardware. Scan invoices into a folder, walk away. It's completely automated. Everything is done by Document Capture. And because we're putting eyes and verifying each one of those index fields, that data that's coming back is going to be like up to 99% accurate. There's zero learning curve on the customer part because we're setting it up. They don't have to do anything. And then again, the cost is very, very low. The price point to use something like this, it's a technology that was previously just not available to customers due to price. We've changed that. A customer can use it for as little as $99. And this service is available 24/7. So whether you're processing invoices at the beginning of the day, as the day goes on, you're running them a batch at night, it does not matter. This is something that is available 24/7 to a customer. Because we are actually pulling the invoices and doing the QC on them, this isn't something that's going to work instantaneous like the zone recognition. The whole process takes around 3 hours. Usually it's a lot less than that, maybe an hour or two, but 3 to be safe. And I actually ran one this morning, and I'm going to go in and show this to you guys here in a second and show you how it works. And so who can use it? Well, this is available to anyone. So our existing DMS customers, existing capture customers can use it. Anyone who has a third-party ECM that is now, manually keying data in can use DocMe Capture and have it export to that. We have a hook into SharePoint, so a lot of our customers use SharePoint, and they will use DocMe Capture, have everything processed and indexed, and then just push directly to SharePoint. Even customers who are using just a Windows file system to store their documents, on the export, it can be configured to automatically folder and name the files according to those index values. And I'll show you exactly how that works. Let me go in, and what I'm going to do now, I'm going to switch over. I'm going to start the application. I'm going to show you exactly how it works. Let me click out of here, open my VM, and this is actually Capture. Let me go ahead and click this one off though. Suspend. This is the one I ran this morning. And I'm going to go ahead and I'm just going to log out. That way, kind of show you guys from the beginning. So, DocMe Capture. Here's how it works. I'm going to open up the application, and I'm going to log in. For those not familiar with DocMe Capture, when I log in, I'm going to be presented with a series of tiles. And each one of these tiles, I click on it, it's something I can do inside of the application. The few that I'm going to focus on today, I'm going to focus on the batch directory. I'm going to focus on the magic indexing tile. I'm going to focus on the batch profile. Down here, this is the auto processing tile. This is where everything is set up to automatically process. So, like I said, the customer, all they do is need to know how to work the hardware. Once it's set up, everything is done automatically. That would all be configured down here. So quickly, the batch profile, this is where we go in and we set up the profile of the rules that we're going to use to process a series of documents. So I'll have a batch profile for invoices. I'll go in and I'll select, create this profile with the index values I want to pull, create a template and tell DocMe, okay, this is when the invoices come in, I want, these 5 fields, and I'll show you what that looks like. This is the batch directory. This is when I run. Now I'm doing all this manually just for the sake of this presentation, but it can be set up to work automatically. In the event we do it manually, we go into the batch directory. We can run a batch. This is where we process this series of documents. So if I have a group of invoices, I'll go in, run them as a batch and against one of the profiles. I'll show you how that works. Magic Indexing, this is where I set up my Magic Indexing account. Let's go in and look at the batch profiles real quick. I'm not going to spend a whole lot of time with the actual setup configuration. I'm just going to show you 2 really main things with how it works. I have 2 set up here, and I'm going to show you traditionally how Capture works, or how we would capture data off of structured documents, and then show you how Magic Indexing is different. So this is a template that I have set up using just regular zone recognition. When I go in and create the template, I'm going to create the index fields. These are the values that I want to pull off of the invoice. And then I'm going to pick, how do I want it processed? Do I want to use zone recognition? Do I want to use magic indexing? Or I can even manually fill the indexes out as well if I choose to do that. This one I used zone recognition. And zone recognition works great if the data is structured. If it's a structured form or something, we can use zone recognition, and Doc Me Capture is going to pull that data back perfectly. So for these, I'm looking for the invoice number, the invoice date, amount, and vendor name, and I'm using something called Smart Zone. So let's take this bottom one here. This is for the vendor name, and I'm using the Smart Zone. And the way it works is I'm just putting a zone over that area and then giving DocMe some markers to look for here. I'm saying just look for the account name, colon, give me what's after it. It's going to be Office Gemini. I can kind of see a preview here of how it's going to work. I did this with the other ones, with the invoice number, the invoice date, invoice amount. I go through, create a zone, give it some markers. When I process the invoices, it's going to look for those markers. It's going to give me the information after it, and it's going to work. We also can do all different types of zone recognition. Just for those not familiar with Doc Me Capture, we can do barcodes, QR codes. We can do MICR, OMICR. There's a lot of different types of recognition that we do. So this works perfect. The problem is that what if they're different? This will work great for invoices that are all from DocMe, but what if they're, from different vendors? It's not going to work. So that's where magic indexing comes in. And I'm going to go in, I'm going to show you how it's different. So this is one that I did. We're pulling the exact same type of data off, only we're going to use magic indexing, which is going to allow us to create a template that's going to encompass any type of invoice that we need to process. The way it works is the same way. We're going to create the index fields that we want to pull off. Instead of doing zone recognition, we're going to use magic indexing. We're going to create a template just the exact same way. Only with magic indexing, we can create very, very large zones now. And I touched on this earlier. If I'm processing a group of invoices and I want to get the vendor name here in zone 1, well, I know that the vendor name on an invoice is always going to be in the top third of the page, okay? And if you look here, you can see I just selected the top third of the page, this red outline. So in this zone, I know the vendor name is going to be here. It could be on the left, the right, middle, logo. It does not matter what it is. We just know that it's going to be in this zone. For the other fields that I'm looking for, like the invoice number, date, due date, we can even make it the whole page. So I just created the whole page and said, look, it's going to be somewhere here. Let's find it. When we run it through, we're going to look for markers for total and things like that to pull the data back. And then we're also going to have someone QCing it. So it's going to come back correct. I'm going to move now to, and this is just how we set it up. Once it's set, this only needs to be done once. Once it's set up, then we just run batches against it. And that's what we do. That's here in the batch directory. Actually, before I do that, let me show you magic indexing. This is how I want to use magic indexing. So I just go in and I create an account. This is my account right here. I can pull up my account information, and I can look. It's going to show me the available characters that I have. I have in my account right now, I have 1,109 left. The average amount per batch that I've been using, the average characters per document. So if I look at this average amount per document is important because, and I'll touch on that in a minute, but just remember it's 41. That means it's costing me roughly 10 cents an invoice to process at our biggest plan. And then these are the ones, kind of the history, and I ran a couple today. One of them was 360 characters. One of them was 370 characters. I ran them through just so we'd have some fresh data to look at today. If I look at, I can look at the year and see the different ones that I've run. So this is how it's set up. And then when I go through, I'll buy the plan. I can pick my plan here, and It's going to let me, decide, which one I want to buy. I can also select if I want it to recharge or not, um, and when I want it to recharge. Let me go ahead and close out that. So we're using Magic Indexing. We're going to run some batches through. These are the ones I ran today. Actually, first, this is one that I used the zone recognition. So let me go ahead and look and show you how that works. So I have a group of invoices that I process in, and they are all similar. If you look at them, they're all similar. So zone recognition is going to work perfect for this. I just click done, and we're going to go ahead and process them. Right now, we're just going to do this on the fly while I have you guys online. It's going to take a minute. It's just running these invoices against that template that I had set up. The data that comes back, it's going to already be indexed, and I'll show you quickly what it looks like. As it takes it through, they come back, and here they are. So these are the invoices. We scan them in, and these are the index data. So we go through, and it automatically pulls the data down. It works great, but they all look the same. Now, I'm going to go ahead and suspend that, because if it is unstructured, which when we're talking about invoices, that's what we're usually dealing with. That's where the issue comes in, because zone recognition is not going to work. It's not going to be accurate. So using Magic Indexing, and the reason I ran these before is because it does take a little while for them to come back. Like these took maybe like an hour and a half or so for them to be processed. So I'm going to take it back to the scan module and show you just kind of the difference. So here's a group that this is 9 invoices that I scanned in. The way we would have it set up is though we would have this set up as a watched folder. So the customer would scan these invoices into a folder, and all this is done, on the back end. The customer's not interacting with the application at all. But if you look at these invoices, they're all different. I'm going to click through them real quick. Not only are they all different, but they're not just one-page documents. Like I can go here and see that like some of these are one page, some of them are a lot longer than one page. Let's go through. Boom, boom. So it doesn't matter. It doesn't matter, how many pages are in each one. And for those unfamiliar with document capture, again, once they're scanned in, if we're doing this manually, we just take them through a QC process where we could just look at them just to make sure all the scans are clean, and we can look at actually up to like 16 of them at a time. So we can do this very quickly. And then when we're done with that, we send them through to Magic Indexing. And I already sent these through. So what I'm going to do is suspend and just show you what happened when I sent them through. We went through. Now I'm going to take them just to the indexing module. We'll change and process. And so picture this. We have 50 invoices, all from different vendors. We put them on. We push the button, scan them into the folder, and Magic Indexing does the rest. So it's going through, and I'm going to click through these quickly so that we can see these are all from different vendors, and all of this information that we're looking for, the vendor name, the invoice number, the invoice date, the due date, the amount, all this, it's all on the invoice, except with the caveat, some of these invoices do not have a due date on them. So some of those fields were probably left blank. But everyone else, all the other fields are there, but they're just in different places. Like if you look at this one, like DHL, it's a logo up here at the top, really. See a motor freight. So we go through and we get all the everything processed correctly because we're doing all the QC. So this is all done automatically. Then we have it set up to export, and I'm going to show you guys how that works. Let me go ahead and suspend this, or actually I can just do done, and it's going to take me to like another, just like a QC module for where I can see it on a table view. I'll click done here. And then this is the export, and this is the other piece that's very, very important. So once everything is indexed correctly, and we have this is something else that we would configure. I can directly upload this to DocMe DMS, which is our document management system. I would just go in, I would log in, I would map the index fields to the index fields inside of DocMe Capture. But what if we're not using DocMe Capture or DocMe DMS, excuse me? So I go in and just map the index fields, and it'll export the data, and it's going to populate the index fields inside of the DMS. So vendor name, I would map it to vendor name, invoice number, and do that for all of them. But a lot of our customers, they're not using DocMe DMS. They're using SharePoint, or they're using a Windows file system, or they may have another ECM, and that's fine. So in the event that we do that, what we would do is we'd go in and we would use an export script. I have a few loaded up here. I'll run through a couple, but we have them for anything that the customer uses, we can export to. Here I have loaded up, I have DocuShare, MFiles, DocuWare, Alchemy. We can export it, just as a file with XML, the metadata as an XML file. And then what we do is we rename, or we can name these files coming out something that's meaningful. So if I'm setting this up and exporting it to just a Windows file system, for instance, I can set this up with foldering. And maybe I want to have a folder with the vendor name, and then I want to rename the files according to some of these index fields, and I want to rename them according to the the invoice number, maybe. Let's do that. Invoice number and the invoice amount, or something like that. And so what would happen is on the export, for all of the invoices exported, a folder is going to be created for the vendor, and then inside of that folder, each invoice will be placed, and it'll be named according to that invoice number and the invoice amount. In the event there's already a folder that's, for AT&T, for example, it's not going to make a new folder. It's just going to use that existing folder and export the document that way. The other thing on the export is we're going to be able to choose how are we exporting it. So let's say we're exporting it to DocMe DMS. I want these things exported as a PDF files. I want to OCR them, and I want to compress them. So that's two things that we have the option of doing on the export here in DocMe Capture. We're going to be able to OCR the document, meaning DocMe Capture will go in and it will digitize that entire document, making it completely searchable. So in the case of an invoice, let's say we need to go back in and find a specific part that we had ordered, and we don't know who we ordered it from or when we ordered it. We just know what the name of it is, and it's on it, one of our invoices somewhere in the system. I could go in and I could type that part name in, and any invoice that contains that part name will be pulled up, so I can quickly find, locate documents based on anything that's on them. The other thing is we have a very, very powerful compression tool inside of DocMe Capture. So on the export, I'm actually going to be given the option of exporting, or of compressing it. So I can take our let's see, is it here? Custom demo, no. One moment. I can go in and I can take these documents and I can compress them. And I'm going to show you an example of what I mean by that. Let's see. Bear with me for one moment. Here. There we go. Presentation. And I have an example of a file that I ran through, this compression example. So let me just pull this up here. This is the exact same file. One of them is 17 megs. I ran it through DocMe Capture and compressed it down to 716 kilobytes. I'm going to render these files so I can show you what they look like. Let's see, that one pulled up on the other screen. Let's pull it over this way. All right. So here's the big file. Let me close that out real quick. I'm going to pull up the small file, pull up next to it. So, and I'll toggle back and forth. If you look, these files are similar, meaning just to the eye, when I render them, I can't tell a difference in them. The difference is that one was 17 megs, and now the other one's 716 kilobytes. So we can compress these down, which makes it easier in the event that we need to, maybe we're looking at this stuff over a phone, maybe just from storage standpoint. Maybe we are having to send the file somewhere, but we no longer have to deal with big, large files. We have the option of compressing everything down, and we have the tool available embedded into DocMe Capture. So to kind of summarize, or to summarize what I was talking about, or what we've talked about today, previously there was no way to take a stack of invoices, put them on an MFP or a scanner, and have them automatically processed if they were unstructured with any kind of accuracy. With DocMe Capture, with Magic Index, our customers now can do that. They can take a stack of invoices, put them on their hardware, push a button, and walk away. And these invoices will be processed, they'll be indexed, they'll be exported to wherever the customer needs them exported, and they can also be exported with different options, like meaning we can name them however the customer wants them named. We can have different formats that maybe they want to export them as. We can OCR them, and we can compress them. And this can be set up to work automatically. And that's the awesome thing. With auto processing now, our customers really do have the ability to do this automatically. So there's no software for them to learn. There's no learning curve, and the price point is something that any customer will be able to utilize the technology. And that's what I had to show everyone today. If you have any questions, please feel free to contact us directly here. Also, feel free to give us a call. And if you look at the slide now, this is our office number, also my cell number, and my email address as well. So again, I want to thank everyone for joining us today, and everyone have a wonderful afternoon. Thanks.